My name is Noah Brew, and I'm an 18-year-old aspiring horror author. In this video today, I'd like to discuss my 3 favorite authors of all time and how they've played an effect in my writing and in my life. If this is the kind of video that you guys would like to see, please like and subscribe, as that helps me more than you would know, and it lets me see that this is the kind of stuff you guys want to see in the future. So, without further ado, let's hop right into it. Before we go any further, an honorable mention is someone that I knew personally in my life, and someone who was probably the biggest inspiration out of anyone that I can mention, because I knew him personally, and I think I would have stopped writing without him. With these big names like Brandon Sanderson, Stephen King as my inspirations, it seems almost childish to want to be like them, because they're so far up into the world. Like, they're Hollywood, movies, TV shows, they're millionaires. Like, it just seems foolish. I mean, as a child, I dreamt of being like them, and becoming an adult, it just seemed foolish to still believe that I could be like them. And this man showed me that not only was it possible to publish a book, that it was possible to be a successful author. And I don't think I would have continued writing without that inspiration. So, that man's name is Harrison Stockland, and I'd like to thank him for everything that he did in showing me how to publish, how to get a cover artist, all the minute little things that I just don't think I ever would have been able to do without him. So, thank you, Harrison. Alright, starting at the list, at the very bottom, number 3, this man, this author, oh my gosh, he's played such a role in my spiritual walk, my childhood, and my day-to-day life, as I consider every choice that I make. This man's quotes, this man's works, this man's everything comes to mind. And that man is C.S. Lewis. If you haven't read anything from him, I absolutely recommend you check some of his stuff out. Narnia, I read that as a kid. That was probably one of the first series I ever picked up. And even as I grow older, reading books like the Screwtape Letters, they're such profound works. And if I didn't have the faith that I do today because of his writing, I wouldn't have the same worldview from which I write from, and my writing just wouldn't look the same. But that man has been the biggest inspiration in my spiritual walk with Christ, and just in my making sure that my writing stays true to God. And he really showed me how to do that, especially with Narnia. So absolutely cannot have a list without C.S. Lewis, and that would be my number 3 spot. Second on the list for me is Brandon Sanderson. Probably the best fantasy writer to ever live, and kind of picking up right after C.S. Lewis. That was the next big series that I started to read, Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. Given from the title, it's certainly a young adult book series, but I still think it's worth a read. His magic systems are insane, and that was just a really good book. And I think after finishing that series, that was the first time where writing was no longer just, that would be fun. That was I want to do this. I have to be like him. I'm chasing after this dream. And so he'll always be up there on my list. If you've ever heard of the Cosmere before, it's a huge connected universe within all of his books that is just so complex but so beautiful. And if you haven't heard of it, you're living under a rock. Go ahead and crawl out of it. But it is amazing. And I'd say that's probably one of the other biggest thing that I picked up from him is how to write a connected universe and how to make it good. There's a lot of connected universes out there in the literature, in films, in every form of media. But Brandon Sanderson really showed me how to make it great. And I know I haven't published a single book, but at some point down the line, you guys will understand what I mean when I say he made me understand how to write a good connected universe. The goal is to eventually have a connected universe between my books, but that'll be further down the line. The second point that I kind of took from him is I had this misconception as a kid. I'd say probably around 10 years old, that a good book is a good plot. A good plot made a good book. And if your book didn't do well, it's because you didn't have a good story. And that's just not true. Sure, a story, a plot twists, they all make a great book. They all make good books, but they also make bad books. But I think the biggest difference between a bad book and a great book is its characters. Characters are who the audience relates to. Characters are who their audience love. It's make or break. And Brandon Sanderson really showed me that. If you've ever read Mistborn, I've never cried before, but going through Vin's journey as a character before the Hero of Ages, I cried. I bawled at the end of that book. And I think that was the day where I really realized, like, it's the characters that make the journey worth reading. And that is the biggest thing that I've ever taken from Brandon Sanderson. So he will confidently and comfortably be sitting at the second spot on my tier list. And finally, at the top of the pyramid is absolutely Stephen King. Forever and always. I'm sure you guessed it from the first 2 seconds of the video. An aspiring horror author. Of course he looks up to Stephen King. And absolutely, the man is an impeccable storyteller, and he will always be that way in my mind. Is someone who wrote an incredible story. And funnily enough, the first time I was ever introduced to one of his stories was from a movie. In 2016, when the It movie came out, I remember watching in my parents' bedroom and being so scared that I slept with like all the lights in the house on and made my sister sleep at the floor next to me. But I think that's what first sparked my love for horror. Is a good plot sticks with you in your mind for a while. A good scare will stick with you forever. And that's where I kind of started moving towards, I want to be a horror author. I want to be like him. And that's when I started to read his books. That's when I started to fall in love with his characters, with his universe, with his horror, his monsters. And I think the biggest thing I pulled from him is just how much stuff he has out there. His ability to come up with so many concepts, so many ideas, so many monsters, so many characters. There's just so much of it. And that's kind of what I want to be able to do eventually. I'm kind of practicing my abilities with that on Reddit right now with my short stories. If you haven't read any of them, please go check them out. But I'm trying to be able to exercise my mind like Stephen King. Be able to put out so many uniquely separate concepts, but all individually incredible. Just out in a short period of time. Because a lot of authors can do that over decades, even centuries. But he did it in half the time it would take you or me. And that's just impressive. And that's probably the biggest thing that I'll ever take from him, is to be able to create so many ideas, so many unique ideas that are as terrifying as they are interesting. And so in my mind, Stephen King will forever sit at the #1 spot on my pyramid. And those are my 3 favorite authors. And that was that. My top 3 favorite authors. C.S. Lewis in 3rd place for his effect on my spiritual walk with Christ. Brandon Sanderson in 2nd place for what he taught me on how to write amazing characters in an amazing connected universe. And Stephen King at the top of the pyramid, 1st place for his impeccable storytelling and ability to create so many unique stories. And as always, Harrison Stocklin for teaching me how to be an author. If this is the kind of content that you guys like, please like and subscribe and tell me in the comments. This is a bit of an experimental video. It's definitely more formal. Look, I put on a watch for this. We've got a champagne glass on the desk. If this is the kind of stuff that you guys want to see, then tell me. And if it's not, also tell me. At the end of the day, I'm trying to put out stuff that you guys want to watch. I really want to make sure that it's interesting. And if this isn't interesting, then please let me know. So, without further ado, I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is Noah Brewer and my 3 favorite authors of all time.